Hey people, welcome to this little sharing of my feelings and intuition into what is going on at the moment and what has been going on energetically in the collective field and in all our personal fields the last couple of weeks at least. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because all I can really offer is my personal experience about what is going on, the frequencies that are very present at the moment, because we are all in so different stages right now, or we have been all the time. All of these souls, all of our souls that are incarnated on earth right now, has its own sovereign, unique journey. So when I speak, I cannot speak as it applies to everyone. But what I can do is share my personal experiences and emotions, thoughts, and intuitions, observing these thoughts and emotions that come up, and then share it with you, so that those of you who are picking up on my frequency, who understands the level of consciousness that I speak from, it might be of some assistance in your personal journey, because there might be some similarities. And in this whole process that we go through, what I think has been very helpful is to observe and be present in our own journey. But at the same time, sometimes it gets really hard, it gets really intense, and the ego has all of these programs that makes us quite incapable of looking out of the matrix. Since we're so embedded in it, it can be very difficult to change, to raise our frequency when we are in the thick of it. It can be quite difficult to change the lens, to raise our vibrations so that we are able to look out and see the challenges from a higher perspective, which is where we have to solve these, or to manage and master these next level challenges from. We have to manage them and master them from a higher level than the place that created those challenges. And when I see challenges, I usually mean, for me, it's mostly now thoughts and emotional patterns that manifests in the physical realities that I have. Earlier on, it was also a lot of physical symptoms, the Ascension symptoms that would wipe me completely out. I would have to sleep. I had headaches. My headaches started in the 90s, from 90, I think about from 95. I had a lot of headaches. And there's a lot to say about that, but since that's kind of I can probably make a video for that at another time. Right now I'm very consumed and been working so much with the emotional and mental patterns, because they are so deeply embedded in us, in me. And that's also why I have this role of being a forerunner, way shower, light worker, call it whatever, doing this as the group that has said yes to do this, before the masses, to be able to understand what all of this is about, and to master and understand from this higher level of consciousness what we are going through. What are we going through, And all of the time for me, through these, I don't know, I think it's about 10 years since I woke up And for those who are new to this, waking up means you kind of just have this moment. For me, it was 30 minutes. It had been going on for a while, maturing, but it was literally like putting on glasses and wow, just having confirmed a lot of things that I've known since I was, a child, but not known as in fact, just a knowing, deep knowing inside. A lot of questions that I've had, and suddenly just everything fell into place. And that was a beautiful experience, though everything that happens after that is the ascension process. So you have this awakening moment where you become awake from sleepwalking, from being asleep, from being in the dream and not understanding that you are dreaming. That's the best metaphor. Well, at least that's one metaphor that we often use, because it's everything feels real because it's physical. You see it, you can touch it, you can smell it. Everything that the human uses to identify what is real and what is truth. But what I'm saying is that in that moment when you wake up, and at least in the years that comes after that, when it really starts, when everything really starts to happen in your body, in your mind, in your emotional fields, and in your psychic fields, everything, then you just question everything and you understand that nothing is what you thought it was. So back to what I want to share is, when you go from this 3D hologram, this matrix, this level of perceiving your reality, when you go from that, you wake up and you see that, okay, this is just one way to perceive reality. It's only one way to experience everything that happens in this hologram. It's just one way of, doing things. And then starts this transition through the fourth dimension. Dimension is just, it's just words to describe levels of consciousness and the experiences that are connected to that particular level of consciousness. So when you transit, you go through the fourth, and that's like a huge purgatory state, meaning you are purging all of the old belief systems. You are mentally understanding, you gain a deeper insight into that there is more to this whole human game than what you thought. And in the earlier days, and when I say that, I mean at least from when I woke up, it was in 2009, 2010, things took a long time because I have no reference. I didn't know of anything, everything was completely foreign to me. I had no concept of anything, so I had to just live it. And then after living it, in my physical reality, I understood. You go through these experiences that are challenging on all levels, body, mind, and heart. And your soul is guiding you to understand. But very often it doesn't happen until after you've experienced it. Because all the higher learning, you can read, you can read books, you can go to courses, you can do all of these things that will kind of soothe you and help you along the way, but eventually you will not be able to raise your frequency and really understand it and get it before you have experienced it and felt it and mastered it. And that is the embodiment phase, when you are actually embodying the frequencies the higher frequencies that are trying to descend, trying to get into your body. Because the human physical body in the 3D form is very dense. It's based in a platform of emotions and thought patterns that are very, very different. Like they're the polar opposites of what will be your future self in the 5th dimension, or the 5th level of consciousness. And this has been so, even, after 10 years of this, it's been so apparent to me the last weeks, because the energy now is helping us. When I say the energy, I mean photonic light, I mean plasma light, I mean all different kinds of rays on the electromagnetic spectrum. And for those of you that does not know what that is, please Google it. It's hilarious that we think that we know everything in this world when we only know 10%. We can see and perceive 10% of the whole electromagnetic spectrum. And think about that. It's a 90% that the dense human form, with our eyes, with our senses, with our original, senses, not the original, the human senses, because we have so much more, but they are not active in the 3rd dimension because it's too much light, so the body can't handle it. Well, anyway, so when you understand that you only see 10% of what, or you only perceive 10% of what is going on around you, you kind of get, okay, a bit humble, and you need a lot of training. I needed a lot of training to accept that there is so much in this world that I have no clue about. Because I was very left brain. I have a long education. I've done all of the anticipated human stuff. I had a good job in a great company, and I've done it all, but all the time with this feeling that something is off, something is not is this really what it's all about? The only time through my life that I have really felt that, okay, now I understand that there is more meaning to this, is when I had my children. When I had these pure beams of light coming in. Oh, I'm sorry. And the energy gets a bit intense. Well, so we all have all these kinds of different signs that will lead us on the way. And even now, when I go back to a lot of the music that I listened to as a teenager, I'm just amazed about all the messages that are in the lyrics. It's just for your own journey, go back and look at your journey through life from when you were a little child and all through your teenage years, and see what lies there for you to see, all the signs that you yourself created as a soul, as these small drops of wake up calls to help you on the way. It's really, it's quite emotional to see everything that we have been given but not understood at the time. So what I want to bring through today is really our own individual journeys. And I think we are in a time right now where the masses are going to go through some quite, huge wake-up calls. And it's going to appeal to your fear, or all of the typical human programs and everything that the 3rd density consciousness is built on, it's going to be triggered big time. And even if you have, sorry, I'm just holding this stick. It's getting a bit, I'm getting, I don't know that word in English. Okay, anyway, I think that the masses will go through quite harsh wake-up calls now in the months, I think actually months, but years to come. And then it's really, really important to know that a lot of people have gone through this already. A lot of people have gone through it already for years and years. And at this time, I think the process that we have been through, and when I say we, I mean the forerunners, the people that have already done this and are still doing it, it took much longer. I mean, I've used 10 years now, and many have been on this journey for many, I mean, they were already holding space in the 1940s. So many beautiful souls are here, not only humans, but we have help from our galactic families, from angelic realms, from ascended masters. There are so much help. So I'm just letting you know that there is assistance. This is a planned transition. This is a planned shift for eons and eons. We have prepared for this moment in time for humanity to change, to shift out of a fear-based, just to say a little bit about the dynamics that are present in a third dimensional reality. That is, it's based on fear. It's based on manipulation games. When you have triggers, rejections, you have, all kinds of emotional states that threatens the ego. So it threatens your root chakra, or the three lower chakras, the solar plexus, the sacral chakras, and the root chakras. And when you have a closed heart, I mean, when I say a closed heart, it means that it's not trusting, it's not expanded, it's in separation mode. It feels separated from the whole. It feels threatened. It feels, the heart is just closed. A woman told that to me in a reading. I've only done 3 readings in my life, but she told me that my heart was closed. I was like, what? This was in the beginning, I think in 2009. It wasn't completely closed, but she says that you have so much fear and doubts, as we all do as humans. But I didn't understand what she meant, because I didn't feel that I had a closed heart. But it doesn't have to do with how much, it doesn't only have to do with how much love you have to give, because I had a lot of love to give. It had to do with the protection, that we protect our hearts, because we have so much fear of so many things, that we do anything to control and to get to steer away from experiencing any of those fears and doubts and limitations. And that's the 2 next parameters that are very present in the third dimensional reality. That's lack and limitation. That we feel that we have like one cake and we have to get our piece, and we have to, if we don't think that it's enough for everyone, we are in competitive mode for survival, basically. Well, even if in our part of the world it's not often about survival, but it's still, the survival of the ego. So, where was I? Yeah, dynamics of the third dimension. So you have all of these thought patterns that are, and the programming, it's a software, it's a software that we are spoon-fed from the day we were born. We came in as a pure soul, and the soul is always pure. But the human gets what's the word? Well, anyway, we get programmed into this reality. So how are things working in this reality? And the little child is observing his or her surroundings from day one, and not always. It's always, it's not what's being said. It's more what's not being said. It's the norms, the feelings that they pick up on. They look at their parents and they see what they do, what they think, what they express. But often the words that they speak are not the same as what they radiate, what they vibrate. And children, we all come into this world with a capability of feeling each other's energy fields. So that's something that we lose. Many of us lose as time goes by, and we get more and more programmed. So the damages, so to speak, the dimming of the light of the soul gets dimmed from very early on if you don't happen to be in families that are aware of this whole game of human life and that can hold space for these souls. And that's not many families before, just I would say before 2012, maybe before 2000. I mean, it's not good to set out any timelines really, because I have no idea, but I would say that on a collective level, it's not many families in this world that hold space for children to be their exact pure expression, not messing around with what is already perfect. But I think we will see it in the years ahead, because as more grown-ups and children turn into grown-ups, they will do this whole thing so differently, because we will then be, live our lives from a completely different platform. When we have reprogrammed our body, our minds, and through that, process through all of the emotional trauma that comes with everything that has been done since we were born until we are grown-ups or whatever age. When we have gone through all of that and merged it back to oneness, to this 0 point field, this is also an amazing theme, which is actually what I was going to speak about, but I am getting guided in all kinds of directions. It's maybe I'll have time to talk about that in the end. Well, anyway, that's what I started out doing, working with emotions, how to acknowledge, to realize our emotions, to get hold of them, to really understand the frequencies, the different tones of every emotion. Is not just a cloud of emotions that you think is depression or you think is anger. It's always like really finely attuned. So going into that, really diving deep into those emotions, that is, I would say, the most important thing that we have to do to get through this ascension process. Not get through it, but to master all the levels in the ascension process. And the ascension process only means ascending into a higher vibration. It's not about going to somewhere, a different planet or anything. It's just raising our frequency, raising the body, and we're going from a carbon-based body to a crystalline to a body structure that is where all these dormant DNA, the non-coded DNA that is between when we have these helixes, DNA helixes. Science has thought for, well, you know, all years that this is just junk DNA, dormant DNA, or, well, they have thought it was, they've called it, labeled it junk DNA. Well, obviously it's not junk. It's dormant, unactivated DNA lying there. These little gaps between the coded frequency, the coded. Oh my God, the English is not coming very well today. Anyway, so all of these gaps, they are being activated now, but they cannot be activated without your conscious intent. So the sun is helping us to activate and light up this crystalline DNA that we will be, our future selves will be based on, so that we can hold, so we all the time now, through releasing emotional patterns, releasing old programming in the mind, lack and limitation, you know, really diving deep into our fears and our doubts, and mastering that and coming into a place of trust and a totally open heart. That's when the body is able to keep this kind of high frequency light that will be present when the body is fully activated. So, to speak from my own experience, I know that I've been working on my DNA levels, layers for years and years. I started out very early with light language, listening to light language transmissions. The first time I heard it, I never heard of it. This was in 2011. And I was just so emotionally affected by it, because it felt like home. And for me, this woman, her name is Judy Satori, a beautiful, woman. She was channeling light language from different star systems, from Sirius, from Arcturus, from Pleiades, Andromeda. She speaks many different light languages, and it just activated a lot of my dormant DNA, and it has been for many years. And I'm still working on it, because there are packages, of DNA 3 and 3, and then they intermingle, so that you're not like finished with this stage, you go to this stage. It's more like always overlaying, and each of the packages layers, they are expressions of new activations, or it raises your vibration to experience the reality in a different way, because you come from a different platform, you have more strands activated. This is like, it's not really important, because, it is important, but it's not important where you're at. It's more important to understand that something physical is happening in your body, so that you might want to take time to, address and work consciously with this, because this is something, it's alive. It's something, it's a live light. It's not dead. It's not passive. It's something you can communicate with and work with. So I have used tons and tons of hours activating my DNA, going and visualizing the helixes and the little gaps between. There are many ways to do this, but this is the way that I've been using, and I've been visualizing that, just as you go around with a light, that you can lit all of these dormant parts, uncoded or non-active parts of the DNA, and activate it, and you see the light turning on. So you just see the whole You can see the whole master helix turning on all its light. And this is the way you do it. So it's not like you just fake it, and you could just fake it till you make it, because that's because when you understand what reality is all about, it's a hologram. It's not solid. So when you visualize something and you feel it, you have the mental thought, because that's what we usually start with, because that's easiest for most of us. And then you connect it with an emotion that you can really feel it lighting up. And sometimes it's, it might be difficult to feel, oh, is it supposed to be burning or what? Don't think about that. Just see it, just as you light up a candle. You can just go around and light it all up. Well, that was a bit technical, but it's also good to know for those of you who are very left brain that it's actually some things that are not very, abstract. It's very concrete, and you can work with it in a very theoretical way until you have done it in that much that you will do it intuitively and you will put on the emotion. So in the beginning, everything is mental because we have no concept of this. So, well, some of us are very intuitive and emotional, and we go straight to you bypass all of those reprogramming, because there might not be that much to reprogram. But on a general basis, I would say that, most of us will have to go through that. And what is mental at some point will eventually become what's the word? It will become embodied. You will experience it. But it's one thing that, in my experience, is very. If you go too quickly, it's a good thing to just get an overview. Okay, you can just read, and for what I did, I was watching I stopped watching television, I think, in 2011. No more news, no more nothing. The only thing was I love watching movies and Outlander. Well, anyway, that was a sidetrack. But I stopped watching television, and I started watching YouTube videos. I started reading everything. I was like, my all my soul memory came to my consciousness. I was to my awareness. So I think that's an important part of the process, that you really just dive into whatever you are craving. But at some point on that timeline, you may want to stop and drag yourself out of that fascination, because eventually you are the one who has to do all of this. So when you feel you have gathered an overview, enough information and triggers and input to really start the process, and will obviously go parallel as well. But I think it's really important for our mental minds suddenly have, we have expectations that this will just happen to be. They're always talking about this, energy influx that is going to happen, or that everyone is going to wake up, or this big event. But nothing can happen before your body, before your mind, before your heart is ready. So your soul is in the driver's seats. Your higher self is overseeing this whole process, and it will not let you through to experience any of this before you have worked through each step of the way. And for me, who was in the dark, I didn't know what I was doing. I was going all over the place, just gathering information. The only thing that I would say I did right in the early years was that I listened to my body. I slept a lot. I did what I was guided to do, to listen to light language. I was diving very deep into my emotional field. I was educated in, I think it was 2007, to a thought field therapist, and I used it on my family and on myself like nonstop. And I would say that was the most important step for me to really realize what is going on with the human, what is all this. Because when you understand the map of emotions, you can use that for navigation. And that is what's very special, very unique for human beings, that we have emotions and we have a physical body. So we feel the emotions really, really strong in our bodies. And all the rest is illusion. So everything, all the stories that goes on in our minds, it's just stories. So it's what happens in the present moment. What happens now, in the present moment? What do I feel? That is the only thing you can trust. All the other things going on in your mind is just your ego chatting. And, it has the power, really strong power, to take you out on journeys that are way beyond your aligned track. And I'm not saying that it's not a lot of insight you can gain on the side tracks. It just, you can go for this loop and loop and loop in the same thought patterns, the same stories for years and years. I have done that. Because it's when something is very emotionally charged and you're very confused, and you might have brought the patterns with you from early childhood, even maybe in your blood lineage. Maybe your parents or one of your parents did the same. Maybe it's something that lies, for me it's been in the feminine lineage, and the relationship between the lower feminine and the lower masculine. So one of my roles in this lifetime is bringing in the divine feminine to integrate with the divine masculine. So when I make a distinction between lower and the divine, it's only words, but what we know as feminine and masculine in the third dimension is very, very different from the fifth dimensional density, feminine and masculine. That's like the divine feminine masculine. And these two different expressions of our soul is interdependent, and that's where all the power lies, in the co-creation between those two. Well, that's another discussion. Okay, so where was I? Yes, so when you really understand, get to dive deep into the emotional jungle, you understand, you see your looping patterns, you see the emotions that are recurring, like coming again and again and again. It's always about the same, and they are often connected to thought patterns that are the same. And this is only, your higher self trying to show you what you need to process and look at, to release. So the more you repress, the more you suppress feelings, thought patterns, experiences, people, situations, whatever, the more you are postponing your breakthrough, your breakthroughs. There are many, many insights. I'm sorry, I'm a bit jiggly and happy today because I've had like really shitty week. Terrible week, because the stories have been non-stop in my head, and in the beginning they were connected to really strong emotions, and I was like, where is this coming from? I did this years ago. I have understood this years ago, and I had to go back one more time to see where the seed was. And if you want to understand about shadow, about darkness, I urge you to look at Alicia Powers. she is amazing when it comes to understanding shadow. And shadow is nothing more than, the other side of light. It's what we need in this matrix, this third dimensional reality, to understand, to light up the shadow, the darkness has to be there to understand what the light is. It's the polarity game. But the darkness, the shadow can, that's the low frequent emotions. I would just, to make it easy, low frequent emotions. All of those things that I said earlier: lack, limitation, fear, control, manipulation, ego, judgment, attachment. There are many, but they're all on the scale of emotions that feel uncomfortable to, really, really dense emotions like hate, anger, rage, envy, jealousy, all of that. So it's nothing. It's very touchable. It's very tangible. But it's also important to know that the darkness, the shadow, the low frequency emotions and thought patterns, they can create havoc. They can create a really, really terrible life if you are not aware of what it is. If you learn what darkness is and how to approach it, that's what we are here for. That's what we are here to master. And then it's not something to be afraid of. So I urge all of you to just embrace whatever is present in your body, because that's what it takes to transmute it back to source light. If you do not want to look at, if you do not want to acknowledge and honor the presence of the darkness, low frequency emotions, thought patterns, expressions of you, if you do not want to own that, it will just go bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can even go into the, how it is formed. It's like these small dark vortices, spinning vortices, that starts as a little seed that was planted at some point in your incarnation, or you can have many different encounters with shadow, and it starts from where you were not even incarnated in human form. It starts when you were just spirit. So when you were in spirit world, part of the training is to encounter darkness, so that you will learn how this is manifesting, and to learn how that your soul is being trained to descend. You are up here, and then you descend, or you can choose to, depending on what journey you choose, but then you descend lower and lower and lower, further down, and eventually into human form. And then your soul memory will know that you have been trained to meet darkness, but we forget when we incarnate into human form. We forget a lot of the training, but it's there. It is in here. And that's why we can only use all the external information as triggers, as little reminders of what we already know. And this is so important, because when we are in the transition phase, the fourth purgatory state, we come from this society where we're used to getting ourselves out of everything just with paying someone to fix something for us, or to, take a pill, or to have medication. Somehow we find ways to just get ourselves out of challenging situations. And often it's a source outside of ourselves, but this whole transition back to who we really are is about learning to place the power back to where it belongs, in our hearts, in our body. This is our sovereign right as a soul. We have all the power. We have all the creative abilities to create what we desire, what we want, what we wish for. But we have to, this whole process is about placing the power back to where it belongs, and to really embrace it and understand that you are a glorious spirit being. This human form is only a vehicle, which we, by the way, need to take really good care of, because in this incarnation we're going to bring the body with us. And that's why it's so challenging, because we are going to bring this body with us to experience a fifth dimensional reality. But don't be afraid, because when you actually manage to master that, a lot of these new technologies kick in, that you can actually regenerate your cells. And so if you are in a state where you are anxious about your body, maybe you're going through all the ascension symptoms and think that you're having all of these very dangerous things going on with your body, please try to communicate with it instead, and know that you have this beautiful union with your body. You can speak with it and ask it what it needs, and start listening. That's the biggest mistake we did as third density humans. We didn't listen. We had this ego that would just overrule everything, and usually based on desires. We want something, we want a job, we want a house, we want something material, we want to be happy, we want this and that, we want all these kind of things. And eventually, when you've tried all that, it doesn't make you happy. You just have to, when you've tried out everything, you just realize that what makes me happy is my inner peace, my inner emotional map, my inner emotional landscape. That is what makes me happy. So and when you kind of understand that there are other ways to get to that place of alignment with your soul and who you really are, you cannot pay anyone. You cannot seek outer sources to fix it. You can seek outer sources to get some assistance if you are very confused. And that is important in parts of the journey. But just don't get stuck there, because eventually you will have to bring back everything that you are and use that. Because all of our journeys are created by ourselves. So your higher self created what you are supposed to do, and no one else can know what that is. So I remember in the beginning when I had woken up and I was, struggling my way, I used to go for long walks. One of the beautiful places out where I lived in Norway, and I usually always listened to music that would, inspire me, and then eventually I started to think that, is this a good thing? Should I listen to music? Maybe I should turn it off and listen to the trees and the birds and connect, because, I read somewhere that you need to connect with Gaia, you need to connect with Mother Earth, and not just look at it and see that it's beautiful. You need to go into your heart and connect. And yes, of course, that is what you naturally will do eventually. But I went through this stage of not listening to any music. I only walked. I just looked and I tried to connect. I tried to speak, and and I felt very clumsy and stupid most of the time. But then eventually I found that, okay, everything has a balance, right? So this was, it kind of went quite a while, I think, before I actually realized that who is to decide what feels best for me? So then I started to listening to music sometimes, and sometimes my body would tell me that okay, I do not want to listen to music today. I just want to be in silence, you know. So I allowed for these very clear guidance from within of what was right for me in that moment. Because what is right for you in this moment, what you eat, what you do, who you are with, it's not, you know, necessarily the right thing tomorrow or next week. So this whole process of transitioning into something else, something of a higher frequency, it's only a matter of coming back to who you really are, who you are when you are in alignment with your soul. And no one else can tell you what that is. But you can get, as I said, you can get some advice, you can get some triggers. You take what resonates, the rest you can just discard. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to say, oh, that person is this and, you know, they haven't understood anything. You know, they do what's best for them. And if we all do this, if we all just come together, share our experiences, we hold no judgment of what someone else experienced, but we don't impose our own either. You know, when you first wake up, this is a very big thing because you want to let everyone else know what you have experienced and you want everyone to come on the boat with you. But this is how we learn what love is, you know, to set free, that we can set each other free and we respect and honor each soul's journey. And it takes time, but I think where we are now collectively, it doesn't take that much time because nothing else will work. You know, we had much more time and it took much more physical embodiment earlier to understand all of these things. Now it will just not work. It will just fall away. And it's, you know, letting each soul just go on whatever journey they need to wake up, to experience what life has, what you already created for yourself. You know, there's all these things, all these soul contracts that we made with people. It's very challenging because when you perceive reality from completely different eyes, you know, life is not the same for a person that lives through the lens of a third dimensional density and someone who has been on an inner journey for 10 years or 30 or 2 for that matter. I've had clients lately that have only used 3 months and they're like completely awake. That doesn't mean that everything is done, you know, there's still a lot of healing to do and embodiment, but things go quite a lot quicker now, I think. So okay, so to wrap this up, I just want to speak shortly about oneness, because there's all about this talk about unity, community, sharing, oneness, and you need to be you need to have been through a lot of these phases to really understand what oneness is. Because, to take an example from my life, for my process, it's oneness is when you understand that you have to go through those experiences when you were a little girl, when I was a little girl. What I observed, I had in a meditation earlier this week, where I was I wanna give a shout out to Steve Noble as well, because he has amazing meditations, and in one of these meditations I asked for gaining clarity on an issue, clarity and insight on an issue, because I couldn't understand my present experience and my emotional response. I was completely paralyzed emotionally the emotions took over my body. And I am quite advanced now in dealing with my emotions because I've been trained for so long going through. I almost cannot imagine any aspect of emotion that I haven't been going through and being trained in. When I say trained, I mean to master, to see where it comes from, what it's telling me, and how I can hold space for it so that it will transmute on its own back to source light, and it leaves your field and you will not repeat those cycles. So anyway, what I was saying is that in meditation I was shown these three windows where I had to go by. The first window, I was shown this issue from the perspective of a little girl. I think I was only, maybe 5, 6, 5 or 7. Doesn't matter. I saw it and I was invisible so that I could walk around and look at the circumstances and the things that I was observing. And I could see how this was perceived by me as a 5-year-old or whatever. Okay, so I gained the insight. I was in my body feeling the emotions of a 5-year-old, but my higher self was present. So, and my grown-up self, who I am now, I was there to see, to understand it from an adult, mature, advanced perspective. And then the next window was me as a teenager. And I saw the same issue, but in a new context where I was the teenager and how I was looking at it from that perspective and from that experience, from that body, from that awareness. And then eventually I saw myself as a future self. I was actually an animal. But anyway, I'm not saying that I'm going to be an animal. It's just a metaphor. But the feeling of being in that future, which is not so far ahead, it's what Spirit told me, that this is the whole transition. This is the experiences that you had to go through with those people. You have agreed to go through and experience and learn from. This way, these soul contracts had to be present for you to be where you are right now, to emerge into that. And this is oneness. When you understand darkness and light, when you understand polarity, when you understand what mirroring is, that we are mirrors for each other to see what we need to master, to go through, to process, to heal, to go from being in a cocoon, being a larva, and then being a butterfly. And that's where, because it's all one, so all the people that are in our lives are one with us. They are just mirroring back to us as a gift what we are carrying inside. And we are helping them. That's our gift to the people that we travel with. So even the worst atrocities, the worst traumas can be healed by going into it. This is like the quantum field techniques. You can just easily go back and see the higher perspective of it. And then you can just heal it right then and there. Because when you understand the perfection of the higher creative play and why something has to be this way at that point, even if it feels so traumatizing, so emotionally deep and profound that it will affect your whole life. This is the lifetime. Like, we've been doing this for eons, and now we are in this transition where the third dimensional reality is going to cease to exist. And this is why we all are in this final phase now, where we are giving the opportunity to pick up all the scattered pieces of our soul from this lifetime, from earlier lifetimes in human form, and from ancient lifetimes when we were not human form. Maybe we were having experiences in other star systems. Sirius, Arcturus, Andromeda is another universe, another galaxy. This is so huge, so we can't even start to imagine. But what is tangible is what you can feel in this lifetime, in this human form, because this is the time where everything is going to be united into one, into your heart space. So giving the acknowledgement and honor despite the possibly horrible experiences you've been through, and that perhaps was something that has been in your family. I'm not talking from my own experience only. I mean, the things that I've been through is mostly emotional and the games of the human play. But many people have been through really horrible things in their lives. But what I'm saying is that everything is possible to heal. And you have the power to do it yourself. You don't have to have anyone else fix it for you. You cannot have anyone else fix it for you. Because it's your soul, your higher self, guiding you into the deepest core wounds that you have. Every time your soul has touched darkness, and Alicia Pausch, she explains it as when flesh touches a hot plate, tissue will be scarred, but you can heal it. And obviously there is a lot of help from what I referred to earlier, from higher realms, that we can have help, and we can have people in this human form that can assist us. But it takes for you to be present in all of the emotions. You have to be conscious and aware. Even if a lot of people on this earth right now they have the ability to hold space, to make healing, to help healing occur. But it has to be a conscious intent from your part that this is something your soul needs and wants and wish for. You have to agree, because the law number one in this universe is that we are in a free will zone, and something cannot happen without your permission. So it's really, really important to ask, make a clear intent, and allow for it to happen. And so it's a co-creation with whomever you wish to seek assistance with, or if you do it yourself, there are a lot of techniques to use. But that's more like the tool, and I have a toolbox in Human Liberation. Toolbox sounds very practical, but this is also, if we want to approach it in a more tangible, practical way, it is that as well. We need the tools to dive deep and to train ourselves to practice on how to do this. And I think this will be very, very important in the time to come, in the quite, near, not so distant future. I think this will all be very, very important. So I see now that I am on 1 minute and 4. No, 1 hour and 4 minutes. That's more. That's about 3 times what I was aiming for. My God. Okay, I'm sending you much, much love from this beautiful island of Mallorca, where I am at the moment. helping my embodiment phase go smoother, because it's so much inspiration, and the water is just 50 meters from where I live right now, so there's a lot of help in nature when things are very intense, and always when it's intense, it's a new layer. It's a new layer ready to, you can jump. And for me, my role is to always be very onto it. I don't postpone. It's very important for me to sometimes take rest, but that is also part of the journey, to really integrate everything that is leveled up, to help the body actually be able to hold the frequency. That's what I've been working mostly on the last year. To be able to, because I understand everything with my reasonable mind, and I understand it. I read the energy very clearly, but it's about helping my body, keeping up. Sometimes I use the metaphor of running a marathon or going to somewhere, and the mind and my mental body and my heart, everything is there. Everyone is crossed the line a long time ago, and I am so impatient. But my poor body is the very dense. It's this human incarnation. That's our biggest challenge, that we have to bring our bodies with us, and we rarely give it time to actually integrate and keep up with everything that is activating. So please be gentle with your bodies, and spend time in nature. Do what helps you recharge, and if it's food, if it's exercise, if it's having fun, all of these things. There are so many things that you can do to help yourself through the most intense phases. There was one more thing. Oh yeah, just a little note. I'm nearly there with my new website. It's, oh my god, my hand is been holding this. I may need to step up my gear. I need to buy something that can hold this for me. Well, anyway, this new webpage I have, humanliberation.net, and it's still going to be active, but this is more like my whole work from, I think I made it in 2015, and it's based on all the experiences I've had since I woke up. And now I am in the last phase. I'm more like, and I think also the collective, I will keep it open for the collective to go in and look at all the writings and everything that is there. But I've also felt the urge since I moved here to change a little bit, because now for me it's more about living everything, and that's why I've called it Living on New Earth. And this is also for me to hold this vision of something that I'm not there yet. It's not that we have a different earth and that's where someone is going to live. This is living on new earth, embodying the high frequencies that are in the fifth density layer. So this page will be more of a present expression of what I personally am experiencing. And yeah, I also do some individual sessions if people need guidance in the Ascension process. And my aim is to do retreats also this year. But I also have a lot of downloads that is concerned around, new earth creations. That's what I call it. It's just, creations. How will this new place that we're all, this new frequency that we're all going to live from, this frequency bandwidth, this layer of consciousness where we will all be in not so distant future, how we are all, this is the first time this is happening ever. like ever in the universe, is the first time human beings will embody this high frequency and live from a completely different platform. So this is about community and sharing and new ways of living, new ways of doing things, new ways of coming together. Many are doing it already, but I have this urge to have this website that can hold space for all these new downloads and visions that we have for what this world may look like. So, and I've been very isolated for quite a lot of years because this has taken so much time for me to embody all of these things at the same time as I've been through parallel, because of all these things happen, a lot of changes are happening in my personal life. And it's been just so hard to deal with all of it. So, and to master and try to understand and, and to master it from this new place inside, which is about expansion and self-love and also holding space for people around me. But now I feel very, ready. I feel that the collective is ready. Obviously, there are pockets of very different expressions all over the world because we are on different, depending on sometimes where we live, sometimes what kind of communities we are in. All of this is just as it's supposed to be. I know that the Norwegian community is about to wake up, and a lot of things are happening there now. But that's why I also speak English, because I want to address people wherever you are. And it's about, because I have people that I work with all over the world. I have a beautiful woman in Mexico, and on Kauai, in Barcelona, in Sydney, all over the place. And it's been a very lonesome journey. And it has to be for some. And for me, that has been the case, except for my children, which are always, who are always very present and also very, high light bearers of the new. But anyway, what I was saying is that on my webpage, if you go in there, it will be ready in a week or so, I think. I am putting out this offer that I want to co-create. And all of the work that I've done up until now is almost all free. It's because I've tried to combine it with regular work, and it's okay for a while, but eventually I just end up coming back to that I have to do this full time. And now I'm also working with my son in the art industry, but it's all about bringing the messages of the soul through in different expressions, so it will be accessible to more and more people in all kinds of ways. Someone will have a wake-up call just watching a painting or looking at something, or being out in nature, or hearing a song, or reading a book. So it's all these amazing ways of creating that will contribute to this beautiful shift that we are all in. So I guess I'm just inviting you to participate in the journey. And if you feel the call to contribute in donations or in co-creating, there's a lot of things that I would love to have assistance with. I have a lot of ideas. So if you're like a visionary or a investor, or there are many things that can help humanity access this easier. So yeah, that's like just an open invitation to connect if you feel called to it. Okay, so I wish you all a beautiful time ahead. Today is 1st of December, no, 1st of September. September is a new month of, integrating and soothing energies, but preparing us for October and on, which I think will be quite amazing. Okay, see you soon. Bye bye.